Hi folks, first of all housekeeping. I'm smoking one of my meerschaum pipes and in it I've got some of the Star of the East by Cornell and Deal. It's a lovely blend. It's 50% Latakia and then several Oriental tobaccos, and I think there's probably some Virginia in there just to lighten it up a bit. But anyway, Christmas is normally a time for telling ghost stories. I think it may date back to Charles Dickens and the Christmas Carol. So I thought I would tell you a few stories from my birth county of Norfolk. We seem inundated with ghost stories there. And some of them have more validity than others. The first two I'm going to tell you have quite a lot of validity about them, I think. The first one is about the headless horseman and the carriage. It passes over 12 bridges in Norfolk, and it's always on the same day, which is the anniversary of Anne Boleyn's death. And the coachman is said to be the headless corpse of Thomas Bullen, who was beheaded by Henry VIII for treason. Being a nobleman, he was saved from being hung, drawn and quartered, which was not considered a suitable death for a nobleman. In the coach is sometimes seen Anne's shadowy figure, but that's not so often seen. But it's seen regularly on that date, and usually not a year goes by without somebody claiming to have seen it. The coach is then seen at Blickling Hall, and again this has been seen several times on that night. And this time Anne sat in the back with her head in her lap, and the coach pulls up, and Anne gets out and goes into the hall and visits various rooms which she probably knew as a child. Now that one's been known for at least 100 years and reported, and probably a lot longer than that. So that makes me think that there might be something in that. The next one, I'm just going to look up a name, sorry. The next one is Miss Nelson, and this has been known from the 1850s onwards. Miss Nelson had a painting, and she lived at Cobb Hall, Yaxley. And when she died, she was often seen by the painting, looking at the painting, standing near it, or just walking away from it. And it was a strange painting, because the painting itself, the face on the painting was said to change quite a lot. But the painting's had several homes, and each time it's moved, the ghost goes with it. One of the places it was moved to was Banningham Rectory, and she went along with it then. And then it was moved back to Yaxley Hall, Cobb Hall, Yaxley, and she returned. And finally, the final place was Barton Turf, where I was brought up when I was very little. And that was brought by the present owner of the big house at Barton Turf. But in 1995, the picture was stolen, and presumably the ghost went with it, because she's never been seen since, and nobody knows where the painting is. So those are two sort of quite strong contenders for having some kind of validity about them. There are other stories of ghosts at Barton Turf. One is of a very beautiful young woman who drowned in one of the nearby Broads, Barton Broad. And she's often seen in one of the local lakes. It was believed that she was running away to marry a knight, and her father objected and chased her, and unfortunately she died. It was a terrible accident. But unlike most ghosts, if you see this one, you receive a blessing. And it said the following year will be particularly good. Another ghost is at Barton Turf Rectory, where they used to be the vicar's place. I think it's now a private house. And it was said that if you put a particular chair by the fire when the fire was lit, a red-haired lady would come and sit in the chair. Nobody had any idea who she was. She would just appear, and she would sit down and warm herself by the fire. The legend says that she was somebody who was burnt to death at one of the local abbeys or something like that, but nobody really knows who she was. She just turns up and sits there. Again, that's a fairly well-known ghost. One of the other ghosts is of a clergyman who is at a place called Potterheim. Most visitors call it Potterham, but it's actually Potterheim.
Oh.
Potterham, sorry.
What is that? I thought it was the other way around.
Carol is just, I don't even know my own county now. It's a place called Potterham, but most people call it Potterheim, most visitors, because we have a strange habit in Norfolk of shortening village names. But the vicar, who's in 18th century dress, is seen silently skating along the frozen dike, and he has his hands behind him, and he's smoking a pipe, I think. But he's supposed to be a local vicar who drowned in one of the dikes at one time. Whether he was skating or not, I don't know. There are several ghostly animals in Norfolk. One of them is Old Shuck, and he's seen mainly in North Norfolk. A big, and I mean big, black dog, about the size of a wolfhound, but much bigger than a wolfhound in body, and with blazing red eyes. And if you see him, unfortunately, you usually die within the next year. But again, it's a well-known sort of Norfolk story, a well-known ghost. I suppose black dogs are seen at different times and seen as ghostly things. One of the explainable ghost stories about Norfolk, and one that most people see, funnily enough, is as they're driving across the marshes, they see a ghostly figure stood at the side of the road. And this has been seen on virtually every marsh road in Norfolk. And we believe what it is on a summer evening when the mists are rising, the mist rises out of a grate hole, you know, the place where the water drains away, and it's got an iron grating on it, and rises out of that and makes a column which is mistaken for a ghost. But some ghostly figures are more difficult to explain. One is of a family coming from Great Yarmouth and going home, having enjoyed a day out. And as they're driving along, this figure runs out into the middle of the road. A man stares at them, and the driver slammed on the brakes, but the car didn't stop in time, and the man seemed to just it just went through the man. And they got out and searched, thinking they'd knocked somebody down, and never found him. That's been reported more than once. Another animal that's seen is of a wolf at the side of one road. Now, wolves have been gone for a long time in England, but this is often seen at a particular place, side of the road, eating something. And it's a big wolf, shaggy grey, and has been seen by several motorists as they pass by. And the final one that I want to sort of mention maybe is the ghost of an animal, short-haired, eared, and small eyes and a small snout, but big and shaggy with longish legs. And that was seen by a family, and they were so surprised by it that they actually turned round to come back for another look. And the animal was still there. So they turned round yet again to continue their journey home. And as they did so, the animal stood up on its hind legs and looked more like a man. And they then decided that they weren't going to turn around for a fourth look and kept going. But that was considered to be a werewolf, a changeling. So those are some of the Norfolk ghost stories that I know, and there are many, many, many more. But Norfolk's that kind of place. There's a real medical term in England that is often put in people's notes by the doctor, and it's of particular people who are causing a bit of a problem, and it's NFN, normal for Norfolk. So I'm going to leave it there, and may you be richly blessed, and may your God go with you.